What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. Welcome to Growler Hour presented by Molson Coors. I am your host, Growlers play-by-play announcer Chris Ballard. So happy you decided to spend some of your beautiful evening here with us. Finally, the weather turned a little bit here in the capital city, but either way, we are happy to have you aboard. Before we get going here tonight, make sure you follow us wherever you may be tuned in from here tonight. Make sure you follow, especially if you're here on Twitch. Still, we have a lot of big plans for this platform moving forward, and we don't want you to miss it. So make sure you continue to follow. Quick hello to a few bodies. I see a few regulars in the chat here. Paul Loader is here. Tom J123, M Stacy 43. Hello to everybody, and thanks again for joining us. And don't forget as well, Growler Hour is indeed now a TV show. We are going to be on Rogers on Saturday nights at 9 p.m. and again Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. No excuses. Make sure you join us. And if you like it, hey, tell your friends. Before we get going, we have two great guests here tonight. We've got Todd Skirving in the house, as well as Trey Bradley, and they're going to help take me through all of their memories of the 19-game home winning streak from this past season. Oh, and I think Woodsy is in the chat. Souls turned 13. So happy to have another member of the fam aboard here. Before we get into this week's chat, obviously I can't wait. Next week, another awesome show lined up for you guys. One of our guests will be Kelly Cup champion defenseman for your Newfoundland Growlers from Goshen, Connecticut, Evan Newgold. And as well, we will have a very special guest. They're all very special, but this one's pretty huge. Alan Doyle will be joining us, Petty Harbor's own. So we are super excited for next week. So set your clocks or whatever you need to do to remind yourself that we've got him and Evan Newgold coming up next week. I think that's all of the news and the notes. On with the show. Tonight we've got another three-way interview, much like we had with Sam Jardine and Zach O'Brien from a couple of weeks ago. But this week we've got from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Wardy himself, Todd Skirving is here. And from Tampa Bay, Florida, rookie sensation Trey Bradley. Boys, thanks for coming on here tonight.
Thanks for having us, Bells.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We'll start off with some real easy introductory stuff. And Skirvs, we'll start with you. How have you been holding up since the last time we spoke? You were on when we were still streaming the games, but we had to get you on here. But kind of sum up the last few weeks. Have they been exactly like the first few weeks of your quarantine?
No, not really. It's getting into the summer swing of things now. Started doing a little bit more yoga, a little bit more training on the side here, just trying to stay in it, Obviously, we don't know when the season is going to start back up again, but, planning for an opening night as always and just trying to stay in it and ready. And like I was doing last time, I'm fostering a couple dogs. We just got another one last night. So we have a 1.5-year-old German Shepherd mix for now. So that's kind of what I've been doing to keep me busy on the side and just kind of spending some time with my parents because, the summer goes by fast here and who knows when we're going to get the call to come back and start playing again. So we'll see what happens.
Amen. And Trey, I suppose same question for you. What have you been doing to keep busy here over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. The first couple weeks, I definitely took some time off and just relaxed. And the first pro season, although it wasn't a full one, was long. So just took some time, rest up, heal, and then the last month or so, been doing the workouts that we've been getting sent, and just trying to stay ready and. Just in case, you never know when the next season is going to be, but when gyms are going to start opening up. So just trying to stay on top of it.
Tom J123 asks a good question. A question I was going to ask you anyway, Trey. Have you been doing much video gaming? I know you let it slip on our podcast episode, the Growlers Nation podcast, a little earlier on when we had a season this season. But have you been sharpening the gaming chops lately?
There's not much to do right now. So at night I'll either throw on a movie or I'll play some video games. And, I've been trying to avoid playing with Brazzy recently. So don't tell him that I've been playing, but no, I'm just kidding. But I play with Justin Brazeau a little bit. Woodsy's not on anymore because I don't know if he doesn't like me anymore or what. But I've been playing quite a bit of video games.
And Skirvs, what about you? I'm more curious now that the weather has turned a little nice. Any golf being played by any of the fellas here? Skirvs, what about you?
To be honest, I don't have a set of clubs yet. It's something I'm going to invest in here hopefully soon. I'm not very good, but played a little bit more last summer and kind of enjoyed it. It's a nice getaway. So, hopefully things clear up soon here. I can get reunited with the fam, get a set of clubs, and hit the links with the boys. We'll see what happens.
And Trey, I'll ask you this. I know you're a golf fan, or at least I'm assuming that given that you're in sunny Florida. Did you watch the match, Tiger and Phil and Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, and what did you make of that?
Yeah, that was actually really fun to watch, surprisingly. I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was, but just to see how, a normal golfer goes up against the pros and just how good the pros are, I thought that was one thing. And then just how Tom Brady is actually human, and, he wasn't as amazing at golf as I thought. He's still good, but, it's just those guys, Phil and Tiger, are just on a different level. So it was fun to watch that, yeah.
And Skirvs, we've been through this a bunch of times before. It's no secret that you have a couple of adopted sons on the team, or you did this season, one of whom, Trey Bradley, is on here with us. The other two, Riley Woods and Justin Brazo. I guess my question is, how has the family been able to stay connected during you got kids all over the continent, Todd?
Yeah, it's been thank God for FaceTime. Obviously, I will admit though, Brazzy, the adopted one, has probably been the best. I mean, when we do our weekly or monthly, it seems like now family FaceTimes, Brazzy's usually the one always answering. Even Beef chimes in every now and then. But Trey's been MIA, so this is the most I've seen him in some time. So it's good to see one of the youngest tonight. But no, it's fun. We keep in touch. We're sending each other memes all the time, or usually it's just those three chirping each other the whole time. And I read it and I'm laughing. I don't really have much to say, but those guys, give it to each other a lot. It's good fun. But yeah, no, I miss them, but we stay in touch.
Trey, what's your response there? He almost threw you under the bus.
I mean, I get no warning. They just call and I'm always busy. I don't know if it's time change or what. I don't know if there's a time change, but that's my excuse.
We'll take it as long as you have an excuse. Now, I guess that means because of the pandemic that family crib night has been postponed. But I heard even if you guys were able to play, it wouldn't matter because the team of Braz and Skirvs, it was just going to mop the floor anyway. Trey, I need your side of that story here.
I mean, Skirvs doesn't even know what he's doing when we play crib. He doesn't even know. I don't think he really knows how to play fully. But, Brazzy is a good player, so I will give him that.
Todd, well, first, before I get your answer to that, John, I think we actually have the photo. I don't know if we have it up already, but a nice family crib night shot here. Todd, how did that first even come to be?
I can't really remember how it started. I think might even have been Fergie that was kind of playing crib, and then Woodsy, I think, or Brad, someone found a crib board in their house, and they started bringing it on the road, and we were kind of always together for meals and stuff, so we just started playing, and we teamed up, and I'll admit Brazzy's unbelievable. But I've gotten a lot better over time. We've gotten really good. I give him good cards. He gives me good cards, as we say. And the guy can count too. So I'll miss points. I'll miss like 5-6 points and he'll pull some out. And half the time Brazzy's counting for Trazer and Woodsy. I mean, if it wasn't for Brazzy helping him out, we might never lose. I mean, it just is what it is. And I wish I had Brazzy here to back me up, but we all know the truth.
And I heard you guys were so tight of a family unit that you actually even tried to institute the family staple known as Taco Tuesday. Todd, I'll come back to you for that. That seems like a very Todd Skirving thing to do.
Yeah, it was funny. We actually spent a good part of the season trying to plan it, but with our schedule and different things with like call-ups and stuff, and it was pretty hectic to try to actually just have one. We were trying to have it just because as a joke at first and have fun with it. And obviously Giobi, my roommate, he was there too. So we had to invite him. We had no choice. But yeah, we had our first Taco Tuesday. I think it was a Wednesday. I don't even know if it was a Tuesday. And it was probably 2, maybe 3 weeks before the season even ended there. So we were already getting geared up to have another one after that last road trip before the season ended up being canceled. And we only ever had one, and we had a good time. And all I can remember is Woodsy walking 45 minutes from his house because he didn't want to take a cab, so he walked through a snowstorm. And yeah, we had a good time, and yeah, that's all I can really remember. It was fun, but
No kidding. And actually, we have to give a shout out to the other the other Skirving child. Justin Brazo is now joined in on the chat here. Him and Woodsy, I think, are getting into it a bit. We'll let them duke it out. But Skirvs, I know, like the proud dad you are. I understand whenever the boys were playing and scoring goals, you were there with the camera out, recording every moment. Kind of, why don't you take us through that? Because you've taken me through your Snapchat story or whatever it is and all the different videos of the boys scoring. You really are a proud dad.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously I'm excited when anyone on our team scores. Everyone knows I get pretty animated and pretty happy for when guys succeed and whatnot. And just like us, like me, Trazer, Woodsy, and Braz kind of grew close over the season. So it was just kind of like an inside joke. I try to make everything like a dad moment every time I could when they do something. So for games I wasn't playing, obviously, I try and catch the celebrations on my Snapchat or a replay and kind of commentate it and then send it to our group Snap after the thing. And then we kind of watch it after and get a good chuckle out of it. But it was all in good fun. Obviously, those three had a really good year for us, along with Colt Conrad, being rookies. And, they helped their team tremendously. We wouldn't have had the success we had without them. So it was all good and fun. It was just my way of trying to keep it loose and, just have fun with it. Hockey can be pretty intense. So if you can loosen up a little bit, help them get into their groove, which they did, and they played tremendous for us. It was just all I was trying to do at the time. And it became a thing. So I think Trazer even got a couple of me after the game that he flicked the puck at the fan. And so he might have got one of me, Woodsy, and Braz there, if I can remember. But
Trey, what's your side of that story?
Which one? The flicking the puck or the videos?
Well, I mean, I'll get your reaction to both, but the flicking the puck is the one I'm curious about.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's just a tough bounce. I think I hit a chunk of ice. I was trying to shoot it in the boards and, just got away from me there. And I didn't know how coach was going to react or how the guys were going to react, but everyone just kind of, gave me crap a little bit and, sat out the game I did. But yeah, that was just pretty unfortunate. I was upset about the offsides call. And then, the puck just flew about 50 yards into the stands. So
Trazer's trying to get me a couple extra shifts. That's all.
Yeah. Get dad's time on ice up.
Just helping out the fam. Well, I kind of want to get into the core of this here because there's no better father-son moment than setting an ECHL record together. So tonight we're going to relive some of the moments of the Growlers' record-breaking 19-game home-winning streak. I want you guys to fill us in with all the details here along the way. I want to go all the way back to the very beginning of the season. The streak started was not too long after that. I want to go all the way back to the very beginning, a 2-game homestand against the Reading Royals to kick it all off. Todd, I want to start with you. Opening night was banner-raising night. Obviously, for a returning guy like yourself, now a Kelly Cup champion, kind of take us through the vibe on opening night. I mean, that's got to be one of the more memorable nights of your career.
Yeah, for sure. It was exciting. Obviously, it was kind of closing a chapter from the previous season. It was a special moment to share with obviously the returning players, and even Parge was there at the time. I remember looking up at him, and it was a little bit of emotion, obviously, because with him retiring and going out as a champion, and just with the new guys. I mean, obviously, anytime you're coming into a new year, the ultimate goal is to obviously win a championship and develop and move on as an individual. But it was special for everyone. Just like I said, it closed one door and it was a new opening and new beginning to a new season. I thought it was a special moment, something I'll never forget. And, obviously we didn't get the outcome from that game. We lost that opening night game, but, it was special is like the only word I could use to describe it.
And Trey, that weekend also served as your first pro game. Kind of take us through that weekend. A lot of pomp and circumstance for last season's championship. You're coming in to Newfoundland as this fresh-faced young guy. Take us through your weekend. That had to have been something.
Yeah, it was fun. The game, the first game was, pretty nervous. You don't want to make too many mistakes. You want to leave a good impression with the coaches. There's a lot going on in my mind. So, I was trying to keep it simple. And I mean, personally, if I look back and watch it, it's easy to say now, but I think might have taken it too simple. I don't think I skated as well as I could have, but it was really fun just to get the first game out of the way. And, and watching the banner go up was really special, even though I wasn't part of it, just to see, we had a lot of returners and that, that was just showing, I think, that we could have done something special that season too.
So after going 2-1 against Reading in that opening series, we moved on to play the Brampton Beast for the first time, our only Canadian rivals. Skirvs, talk about that rivalry renewed this whole season, really, with Brampton. The Growlers ousted the Beast from the postseason last season. Did that carry over into this season?
I think a little bit. Obviously, we played them. I think we played them. How many times did we play them last year? 21 times or something like that, including playoffs, which is a lot, or 18, 19. So anyways, it was a lot. And then obviously we had 2 preseason games with them. So we knew, I mean, they're a good hockey team. I think that's why you have a level of hate for them, but you got to have a level of respect for them too, because they are a good hockey team. They are, I mean, they got good scorers. They had good goaltending too in the playoffs last year. So you knew what they were going to bring. Obviously, they're very offensive. They're a fast-paced team too. So the rivalry is still there, being the only 2 Canadian teams. And, we were excited to play them. It was kind of nice to get them in early in the season too for the new guys, just to kind of see, what an in-division rival kind of looks like too, and how that's going to set the tone for the rest of the year. So, yeah, it was good.
And Trey, obviously you would have seen these guys in preseason. This was your first taste. How quickly did that rivalry, that Canadian rivalry, kind of cement itself to you and present itself as something that, well, we're going to have to deal with these guys a handful this year?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was long. This was a long time ago, but from what I remember is there was like something a little bit different about their game, the finishing of the hits and, their speed and just the intensity of the game. I noticed that right from the start. So, but I mean, that's about all I can remember from that one.
That's okay. And then on October 19th, the Growlers did suffer a loss in that series, 7-5 to Brampton. I remember that game was a bit nuts, but that would end up being your last home loss for what would be several months. So from here, we'll go series for series and pick apart and see what you guys remember. So after that, the Growlers ended up on the road, the first roadie of the season against Maine, Reading, and Worcester. Went 2-3. I remember it seemed a lot like last season, and Skirvs, you might remember that kind of the win one, lose one thing was happening a little bit. But after that, came home to play the Atlanta Gladiators, the first time, Skirvs, that your former team had ever made the trip here as far east as you can go without getting wet. What's it like getting a chance to play against a former team?
It's great. We had a chance last year to play in their own barn, and I remember taking it to them there, and then obviously having them at home for 2. It was good just to see former teammates and friends, obviously, that, kind of friendships that will last a lifetime, people you still keep in touch with. But those are 2 games that I really wanted our team to win, not just because it was a team that I played for previously, but just they're a team from the South, and it's a different style of hockey. And it was just, for me and the team, it was kind of just to see how we stacked up against the South Division team. Obviously, later in the playoffs, you're going to have to go through one of those teams. So I thought it was a good stepping stone for us to win those 2 games against them, because they ended up getting hot down the stretch too. And I know they were maybe 3rd or 4th place, but they're right on the bubble anyway of making the playoffs too. They might even have been higher. So that's one of those teams, all those South teams any of those teams can win on any given night. So I think for us, it was huge to get those 2 wins against those teams at that time of year, especially like you said, we were kind of winning one, losing one, and getting a feel. And I think that at least at home, we want to take care of home ice. And that might've been, kind of where it started taking off, is that series.
And you scored your first goal of the season, Skirvs, against your former team. That's always a good time. Do you remember much about the goal? Is that an important one for you?
What I remember from that one is just because I don't know if, I wasn't in the lineup as much going up to that game. I think we might have had some injuries or call-ups at the time. So I ended up playing, I think, both of those games at the time. And I think it was with Brads and Pools. And we'd actually been playing, I thought, a pretty good game. We're spending most of the time in the offensive zone. And I was I remember saying, it's like, I'm going to score this game. I was telling them, and we were kind of just buzzing the whole game. And I know Brads and Pools, it was just kind of a gritty shift in the O zone. And, I stopped on the puck. I just remember turning back on it and just shooting it and trying to get it up, because I know he likes to go down, and it just happened to go in. And like I said, it was obviously exciting. For me, anytime I could score and just help the team, obviously just being that depth every now and then, it's good. Just like I said, just anything I could do to help the team. And when I score, it's nice.
And Trey, that series also marked the arrival of Angus Redmond, goaltender for the Growlers. Ended up having a great year. What do you remember about, what will you remember, I guess, about Beef this past year?
Beef, yeah. So I kind of knew of Beef right away, because one of my really good buddies from college had played with Beef in juniors. So I knew he was a really good guy, and, I had a sense of humor kind of like mine. So And, I think he was pretty quiet early on and he didn't really release his sarcastic side, but, he was great for us in the net in the games, obviously. And I think his record shows that, but he was a great teammate off the ice too. So that's, something I'll remember about him.
So after that Atlanta series, we rolled right into the next series at home against the Toledo Walleye, November 15th and 16th. Skirvs, be honest, were these games that were maybe circled on the calendar for you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, Toledo is one of the top 5 teams probably every single season. They're in the Cup every year. So, I mean, being a rematch and all that, that's one thing. And like I said, it was like another gauge to see where our team sits against the best of the league, because that's what they are and that's what they bring. So those are big games. We take every game seriously, but that was one that we really got amped up for, and especially the returners and even the new guys kind of bought into is let's see where we're at. Let's leave everything out on the ice. I remember you and me, Bal, was actually talking about it before the game, just kind of how the series goes and looking at the positives from winning, splitting, losing, whatever it may be, and seeing where we are. But that was a big gauge for us. And again, beating a different division, different style of hockey and a little bit of an older team, just see where we stacked up. And, those are another 2 big wins that we had against arguably one of the best ECHL hockey teams year after year.
And Trey, that was a big weekend for yourself, scoring your first pro goal. Maybe not how you drew that one up. Take us through the goal, if you may.
Yeah, surprisingly, it was exactly how I drew it up. I told Skirvs before that's how I was going to score. No, I'm kidding. But, I mean, all goals, I guess, in the end are the same. But, I just kind of went around the net and threw a puck trying to get it into that area and happened to get a lucky bounce and it went in. But I had a lot of chances before that in the previous games. So, I mean, to score that one was funny, but, it was also a sign of relief and, just get the first one off your back and then just keep going from there.
Now, Skirvs, were you dad yet when Trey scored his first by the middle of November there?
I don't think so. I can't even really remember when it started, but I think it was still too early in the season because it was near the beginning of November, right? I mean,
yeah,
guys were kind of getting used to
November, so maybe you were just a stepdad by then.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it was early, like I said, it was early on because I don't think we had that many road trips yet, so we haven't had like I said, the road trips were huge for us early on because that's when it kind of brought us together. I think road trips are huge for a young team like us because that's what brings everyone together.
So both wins that series, 4-3 and 2-0. Max Zhukov, let's remember, earned his first pro shutout there against Toledo and what would probably be his best game of the year. That's not easy to do. After that was then a 7-game road trip, 7 games in 10 days from November 20th to November 30th. Adirondack, Reading, Worcester, Maine, 4-3. Again, not having broken through on the road, 7 games, 10 days. Any memory of that stretch? That's like the first, I think that was the longest road trip of the season. Skirvs, any memory of that?
I think that's where it started, Bals. I think it was that road trip. But 4-3. It was 7 games in 10 days. You said, yeah. I mean, like 4-3 is not terrible. It's probably not what we want. Obviously, we expect to win every game, but realistically, that 4-3 was not what we wanted, but we were kind of okay with it. We're above 500. I know it was a grind. It was hard on a lot of guys to play that many games in such a short period of time. But like I said, all I can really remember is that we were okay with coming out 4-3, kind of healthy, not really maybe banged up, and got, points that moved us up in the standings against divisional teams and, kind of kept us above at that time anyway.
Came back home in early December for a 4-game homestand against Reading again on the 3rd and 4th of December. What I remember most was a dramatic Joe Duzak overtime winner, big comeback that was all sparked by a Todd Skirving goal. Skirvs, what do you remember about that game?
It's easy to remember them, Bals. I only had a handful.
That's why.
I remember that game just because we were playing awful. Simply put, I don't think we played the first 2.5 periods. We really didn't play, 40, 48, 50 minutes in a game. And then I remember we weren't really flowing. It was just penalties and things were going. So I wasn't, in or on the ice as much that game. And I remember getting thrown out for a shift there, just trying to get some energy going. And I was really just trying to do whatever I can. I was running into everything. And I remember Newgold taking up the ice and wrapping around. I just get to the net and no matter what happens, create some kind of energy, whether it's a goal or not. I happen to tap it in at that point, and I looked up at the clock. I think it was 10 or 12 minutes left, or basically we hadn't even started playing yet. That was like the first shift. And then I just kept, as I went by the bench and I got back to the bench, I said, we have lots of time, because when our team plays the right way, as you've seen many times this year in some of the wins we had, we'd win a game in the last 10 minutes, or we'd win it within 10 minutes of a game. Like, if we wouldn't play to our style for a full 60 at times. And that was one of those games where we only played the last 10 minutes or so, and we got rewarded with a win. And I mean, we'll take that. You're not going to win. Every game is not going to be perfect. And it was just another learning lesson for myself and the rest of the team at the time. So another good win, I thought.
Trey, same question. I mean, surely that's the kind of game where you're going to have some recollection.
Honestly,
maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse. Go ahead.
Honestly, Bals, I was just about to say, I remember Duzak's overtime winner, but that I don't know why that game's not coming back to me right now. But I know around that time of the year is where our team really started to take it to the next level, and I thought we gained a lot of confidence around then.
Let's fast forward to the next homestand, December 6th and 7th, the first trip for the Worcester Railers to St. John's this season. December 6th was another just silly game, down 3-0 in the second period and 3-1 heading into the third. The Growlers would score 6 in the third, including 2 shorthanded goals to win by 2 in regulation. Trey, I remember you were buzzing around that game. Any memory of that one, or should I move on to Skirvs here?
Was that the Maple Leafs weekend or the?
Yes, that was the first game of the Maple Leafs weekend.
Okay, yeah, no, that was a crazy game. I'm pretty sure in the locker room, Snowy gave it to us a little bit and gave us a little kick in the butt. But yeah, that game we just came out and we just said, okay, let's just watch the first 2 periods. We got to forget about them and just, get back to playing our hockey. And that's what we did. And I think when we played the right way and played hard and just kept things simple and didn't, go for those crazy sauce passes and all that stuff, we were a really hard team to beat. And I think we scored more that way. So I think that's exactly what we did. And that showed that if we play the right way, that's exactly what will happen.
And Skirvs, that weekend also saw the debut of another Growlers goaltender in Parker Gahagan. What do you remember? Same question as earlier, I guess. What will you remember about his emergence, I guess, this season?
I just remember Snowy mentioning it that, Parker Gahagan was coming in, and I kind of heard the story of he had to take the year off, started in the SP, and I remember saying in the SP, I was like, this guy was up for a Hobie Baker candidate as one of the best college goalies, and he went to Army. I was like, this guy is a specimen. I already know just because of the school he went to, the numbers he put up in university. So I just knew what we were getting with him, along with Beef, obviously, when we got him, to relay on Trey, great person. Him and Parks and Zooks, the 3 of them, obviously at that point, when it became 3, pushed each other and basically their best potential. And obviously Parks got rewarded with American League contract after that too. And just the 3 of them, once we had the 3, I think it kind of allowed all of them to really settle in. And I mean, it was kind of whoever was in net, we kind of felt confident going into every game, which is, very dangerous to have when you have the confidence in every goal you have to, go out there every night and just kind of play your game. So the 3 of them, Parks, Beef, and Zooks, were huge for us.
And Trey, what did you think of the throwback St. John's Maple Leafs jerseys that we debuted that weekend? Not too dissimilar from the same Leaf era that your dad, Brian, would have worn in his tenure as a Maple Leaf. What'd you think of those shirts?
Yeah, they were a lot cooler than I thought they would be. And even in person, they're probably one of the cooler jerseys I've ever worn. And yeah, I think there's a picture somewhere online of my dad wearing a very similar one when he was for the actual Maple Leafs. But yeah, no, that was definitely a fun weekend, and I think we got the pants and the gloves to go along with it. So it was really cool from that perspective. So
the Utah trip was next. Certainly a memorable road trip just for the length of it. 3 games, 1 and 2, but came back for the last couple of games before the Christmas break. The 17th and 18th of December against the Adirondack Thunder, a pair of 5-3 wins. Both games, the Growlers were trailing 2-0, ended up winning both and going 20-10 heading into the break. I mean, Skirvs, at this point, what's the vibe in the room? heading into the Christmas break? I mean, 20-10 for a team that's had a target on its back all year from having won a championship the previous season. That had to have, gone over well in the locker room.
Yeah, it was good. I remember even you and me talking just kind of where we were at the previous year, just to kind of see how we stacked up, at least record-wise. Like you said, the Utah trip wasn't it was very long, and that's another good team that we had to play out there. Wasn't the way we wanted it to go, but we knew going into break, finished the last 2 games going into break here strong and, come back after Christmas being refreshed. So at that point, we were pretty, we were happy with what we have accomplished so far, but obviously the job wasn't done. But for the first part of the season, obviously we could put a stamp on it, and we were happy with the results that we had, how individuals were starting to thrive, how the team is starting to come together. And I mean, personally, me thinking here, I was just hoping that the team would get the rest that it needed, which it did, go back and reset and come back after Christmas. And that's when, the best time of the year kind of starts. So we were definitely happy at that time. But like I said, the job wasn't done. So we were, striving for more, as we always do.
And Trey, same question. I mean, if you had asked yourself at the beginning, hey, we're going to go 20-10 through the first 30 games of my first pro season, I think you'd take that. What was your take on the first 30 games, I guess, if you had to sum them up like that?
Yeah, I mean, coming from college, especially when you only play 30 something games. So, and to play that many in just the first half of the year, it was definitely nice to get some rest going into break like that. But yeah, I mean, the first 30 games, there's a lot of travel. But I love that you spend a lot more time with the guys on the road, and, you really get close to people that way and your teammates. And, I think that's exactly what we did. And that's what made our team so good. And I realized that halfway through of just how good of a group of guys we had and how everyone was bought in and no one was selfish. Everyone wanted the, team first mentality. And I think that was pretty special.
Well, for sure it was. And then after a pretty good break for Christmas, let's be honest, back in action at home over the New Year's weekend, the 30th and 31st of December against the Worcester Railers. Let's talk about that New Year's game, because that's a first for St. John's. I don't know if there had ever previously been a New Year's Eve game. Trey, we'll start with you. Does that add something kind of special, getting to play on a holiday, I guess?
Yeah, which was that when we had the SpongeBob jerseys or not?
Correct.
Or is that? I don't know if I played that night.
Okay, should have done more homework there, so thank you for that. What did you think of the jerseys?
I was in the nest.
We talked about jerseys earlier. They were certainly unique. That's a league sponsorship through Nickelodeon. Todd does some pretty unique shirts there. Wish I had one for my collection, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know if I was a big fan of those ones. I didn't think they were too. I mean, I don't mind SpongeBob. It's just kind of a weird looking jersey. It wasn't one of. Out of all the ones that we have, wasn't my favorite. That's for sure. But I remember those games. Like you said, it was against Worcester. Yeah. I think I made my debut on defense on the first game, so that was interesting. I remember doing some extra drills, defense and drills early in the morning after morning skates, make sure I was ready. But no, I mean, like Worcester always gives us a run. So I remember just another couple wins that we got. Special jersey, New Year's. Never been in St. John's, obviously, for New Year's because I don't think we were the previous year. So, it's just fun time, obviously, to win those games and then be able to hang out with the guys after and kind of just celebrate and, open up the new year together.
And we opened up the actual new year on the 3rd and 4th of January, hosting the Adirondack Thunder. Both games went to overtime, both Growler victories. Trey, what was it about the Growlers in overtime this season? 7-0 in overtime. It really seemed like the skill and the speed just seemed to win out in the extra frame. Is that how you saw it?
Yeah, I think overtime definitely comes down to a lot of individual skill, certain guys stepping up and, making big plays. And I think just about everyone on our team had that ability, which is hard to find. And so I think that's why we really succeeded in overtime. And you look at some of the goals that we scored, and they're all pretty good individual efforts.
Skirv, same question. I mean, what was it about this team? You're more of a veteran guy. Any different perspective than what Trey suggested?
Yeah, like you said, we had a lot of skill this year. Guys making a lot of individual efforts. I think guys just wanting the will to kind of win too. We had a lot of guys that hated to lose, and I think that helped with it. And big players came up in big moments for us. And another thing is, I just think we had a lot of guys on our team that actually cared not just about the team, but just about their own self, that they didn't want to let anyone else down. So I think we just had a, more fit, more athletic team that, come the third period, come the overtimes, we had a little extra juice in the tank, no matter if it was a 3-3, a 4-5, 7-10. I always thought we had the edge, because I just always thought we were built in the way we practice like a game. We were always ready to go as long as the games needed to go to pull out a win if we needed to. So yeah, I think our team is kind of built for, longer series, longer games, whatever the case may be.
And that was 3 straight overtime wins in that stretch there to push the home win streak to 14 games in a row. Trey, I know home win streak is kind of a funny thing to lock in on, because you play 2 or 4 and then you're gone for a bit and then you come back. By this point, 14 deep, are you guys aware that you're on a home streak by this point, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that, because I think that's exactly around the point when I started to realize, like, wow, like 14 games in a row, that's pretty impressive. And again, like where I came from in college, I don't even know if we won 14 games at home in my 4 years. We didn't really have the best team, but I mean, I think that's when we realized, like, that we were on a streak, and, coaches just came in and said, nothing changes here. We just got to keep playing the way we're playing. And but I think that's around the time we realized.
Skirvs, is that about right?
Yeah, I'd say, I sit by you on the bus, so like I kind of hear all the. I do get the extra little stats and tidbits kind of going on with their team. So you and me had been talking about a bit, and like Trey said, I think the coaches brought it up around that time. Like he said, nothing did change, and for us, it was just sticking with the process. I know it sounds so cliche, but it was something that we always did, and we never really looked too far ahead. It was basically next day. Okay, we practiced today. Let's worry about today's practice. Okay, we got 2 games against a certain team. This is what we're going to do for this team. We were with the first night, first period, first shift kind of thing. And then before you know it, like you said, the win streaks the wins just started piling up. And it was something like we never really focused on, because we're always so set on just playing well at home. We wanted teams to hate, 1, playing us, and 2, having to come all the way out in the rock and not getting any points. And that would frustrate teams. You travel all that way and you don't get any points. And that was something that we wanted to make point of this year, is making sure we're taking care of home ice, obviously with our fans, sleeping in our own beds, getting our own meals, being around their, basically our familiar place. So yeah, that was probably around the time when it heated up a little bit more. I think that's when the promotions and the social media started picking up too. And obviously we all follow it. So we kind of hear it was something that was more in the media than what was in the locker room. Like I can honestly say it was something that really wasn't talked about as much as what people would really think, just because we were so focused on just playing good hockey and doing the right things.
And I remember just dreading having to ask you guys about it, because obviously we got to talk, we being kind of the front office, because that's going to sell tickets. Let's be real. But obviously traveling with you guys and knowing kind of the bubble that is a streak like that. Oh God, I dreaded having to bring it up in interviews, but hey, it all worked out for the best. You mentioned travel, Todd, and travel definitely played into the next road trip. I said we weren't going to lock in on road trips, but you reminded me of a pretty key fact of this one. It was a 3-3, the first road trip of the new year, Maine, Worcester, and back to Maine. I think there was weather delays or something to that effect, so we didn't arrive until the day of the game on Friday. Super crazy travel day, got in, beat Maine, went overnight to Worcester, beat them, and ended the whole thing off with an afternoon game back in Maine on Sunday afternoon, winning 2-0, Parker Gahagan shutout. That's a crazy stretch to then come home and keep a streak going. Trey, we'll come back to you. What does a 3-3 like that do for a team when you're coming home knowing that you're inching closer and closer to a record?
I think it's just as physical as it is like a mental toll on your body. 3-3s are never easy when you're playing the same team 2 of the nights. It just takes a lot out of you. And I think we had a pretty depleted roster as well. So, things just weren't really going our way for that road trip. But just to keep bringing it up, I think it just shows the character we had in the room. People, put aside the mental, the physical fatigue, and just, kept pushing for the greater cause, which was winning hockey games. And, that's what I think our team had that, not a lot of teams do.
Skirvs, you were the one who reminded me that we traveled in late. What are some other details you might remember of that weekend?
I just remember not getting out. I mean, we always have long travel, and I think for when teams come to play us and when we go on road trips, I think it works to our benefit because teams aren't kind of used to that when they come play us at home. So that was one of the reasons why I thought we did well at home. And then we were so used to it that we were told we were flying out Friday morning, and I remember Sean took us down the wrong highway, and we drove about half hour. Sorry, Sean. Sorry, I had to do it, but we drive about half hour the wrong way, and then we ended up getting to the game about an hour before time. And it was kind of one of those games where we just kind of went out and just played. It was, you didn't really have time to think or there. And we were in the game the entire time, and we ended up coming out winning that game. And I remember after the game, we kind of just said, like, now we don't make excuses, but at this point, we're like, we can never make excuses now. We just had one of the hardest travel days. We won. Now we're going to Worcester. Like, let's get ready for Worcester. We won that, went back to Maine, like you said, and won. And we went 3-3, and then we drove back to Boston that night before we flew out Monday. And I remember all of us just kind of saying, like, you know, when we put our minds and, like, you know, and get ready for games and do our best, like, we got something special here. And it wasn't easy by any means, but it just kind of shows, like Trey said, the character of the team, how tightly knit we are, just to stay composed and find ways. Like, they weren't pretty. I remember if we watched those games, they were definitely not pretty games. But at that point and that weekend, we were just trying to find ways to win and scratch and claw, and that's what we were able to do. And then coming back home, we felt a little bit more pep to our step after a weekend like that.
Speaking of pretty games and pretty goals, certainly scored a lot of them against Kansas City in the next series of the streak here, 4-1 and then 7-1. And I remember their goalie actually played really well in spite of the score. Trey, I see you nodding your head. Do you recall the same, or are you nodding because that's the convention here?
No, yeah, I remember their goalie was probably their best player in my eyes. He was saving everything, and yeah, I think it was a team that we hadn't really seen before, and we didn't really know much about. And again, they're a solid team. They're physical, but again, yeah, I think our team just finds ways to score, and you know, we have a lot of skill, but we got some, like, everyone's tough, and you know, no one wants to lose. But yeah, I remember their goalie was standing on his head for the whole series.
And you managed to beat him at least once, I believe, that series. You were first star in that 7-1 game. Are you the kind of guy where you recall big games and stuff like that? Do you have any recollection of anything like that? Or in the middle of your first pro season, are you just trying to get through the game and move on to the next one?
I mean, it's always nice to, you know, look back and see, like, you know, you're getting better, or you're making progress, or, you know, you personally have a good game. But I mean, at the end of the day, honestly, and, you know, the second half of the season, as long as the team wins, you're happy. But yeah, I do remember that goal just coming around. I think I got a, you know, drop pass from Brazzi, and just kept my speed going and took it to the net. And just, I knew the goalie kind of drops, because that's how a lot of goalies play nowadays. So I was just trying to get it up, and, you know, that one happened to go in, and it might have looked a little bit prettier than my first goal against Toledo, but they all count the same.
Skirvs, did you catch that one on video?
You know what, Bells, I might have been playing that game, so I probably couldn't. It's funny you say that, because one game we all played together, and I remember pretending to take the video from the bench as the three skated on by. But no, I don't. I think I played one of those games, but I just remember, like, it was just another opportunity. Anytime you get those outer division games, like, you're so used to seeing the same team over and over, and then you look at scores happening in other divisions and seeing how teams are stacking up against each other. And it's just another gauge for our team later in the year. So, like, I always got excited for those, because I'm like, all right, let's see where the team's at now. Or, like, look, our roster is a little depleted. We're a little banged up, call-ups. We're a little bit short-staffed. How are we going to find a way to win this game? And then we do. And it's like, okay, this is good. We don't even have our roster. And it's just always using it as a gauge to see where we're at, where we can be, and, like, what we can improve, obviously, as the season progressed.
So following that series against Kansas City, 16 straight home wins. That was shy still of the record, but 11 wins in a row, cumulative, which is now and still a franchise record. Trey, was this kind of the point where you said, okay, this is for real, we might have a chance to really have a strong second half and do some damage in the playoffs? I know it's kind of weird to ask that question given what was at the end of the season for us, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think obviously we had a lot of confidence in ourselves, and starting from the net out, everyone I think had really stepped their game up. And I think what really helped was I don't think the travel was as bad in the second half. We didn't have any crazy like long road trips or 7 games in 10 days. So I think, we got a little break in the schedule. I mean, it was still tough, but not nearly as bad as I think it started. And we were also adjusting to that. So we didn't have any excuses for not being, mentally prepared or physically prepared. But I think that moment, we were a couple wins away from the record and, 11 wins in a row. Like, that's something you got to really be proud of and know you're doing something right. So I think we just, kept the same thoughts every day and the same systems and prepared the same way. So.
And following that homestand, back out for, you guessed it, another 3-3, Reading, Brampton, 1-1, 0-1. The 0-1 was for our only non-overtime victory of the season. The only time the Growlers couldn't clear it up in overtime. Went to a shootout, 7-6, a real funny game against Brampton. And then, of course, hosting Brampton for the next 2 games with the streak, with the possibility of tying the streak. And again, and Todd, I don't know how good your memory is, crushed them both games, 5-0 and 6-1 on the 31st of January and the 1st of February. Those are pretty decisive games against a team like Brampton. Any particular memory about that to tie the streak that weekend?
I think those 2 games we played really good hockey. Obviously, I mean, we scored a lot of goals, but I just think we did a lot of the right things that weekend. Obviously, being a rival, we always get up. And I mean, they're getting up for it too. It just so happened to be that we got the better outcome of it. But I think that we played within our structure. We just never really got into their game. We just kept pressing. I remember that weekend we just played, if I can remember correctly, we played really good hockey. From the goaltending to the defense to the forwards. I think everyone just kind of bought in. Obviously, the streak was on the line, but I think at that point, it's like we're playing Brampton, they're a rival, they're in our division, they're chasing us, and we don't want them. It's a 4-point swing, rather 8 points ahead of them, or they're catching up. You know what I mean? So I think it was just a big weekend for us where we played very well. And like Trey and I have been saying, it's just you could just see the progression throughout the year where the games we're not only playing 20, 30 minutes, it's 40, 50, 55 minutes. We're starting to play more complete games. And I think, if I can remember correctly, like I said, those 2 games that weekend was 2 games where we played very good hockey.
Trey, that was maybe your best 2-game stretch of the season. 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. Do you remember anything about that weekend? Or is it just kind of like what Todd said, just, hey, we're really coming together. Let's not focus on our own numbers and let's kind of lock in at the task at hand?
Yeah, I think it's more of that, just focusing on the team thing. But I do remember, getting beat 7-6, I think you said, in overtime. It's a wake-up call. I think in the end, looking back at it now, I think it's a good learning experience. And it was a good learning experience for our team because, going in, we knew we had to tighten up. We couldn't get into their run and gun style play. And I think that's what we did. And, we played really well defensively that weekend, obviously, if you look at the scores. So, I think that 7-6 game actually ended up being a good thing for us in the end.
And that series then against Brampton, another couple of wins, rolled into another 3-3, came back again somehow with another 3 wins. Adirondack, Worcester, pretty fair scores too, 7-4 and a couple of 4-2 games. That had to have been a huge boost coming back in, knowing that the record is now on the line. You have tied the 1994 South Carolina Stingrays with 18 straight home wins. And I'll ask the question again. At this point, and Trey, I'll come to you. What did Snowy say or do anything in the room to try and downplay it? Did he mention it at all, or was he just trying to look past it?
Honestly, I don't remember exactly, so I'll let Todd touch on that if he remembers. But I don't know, Todd, do you remember? Do you remember what he said?
First of all, going back on that road trip, we always had a hard time in Adirondack the first season. So to win those 2, I remember even the 7-4 game, I think it was like 7-1 or 7-2 at some point. And all of a sudden they started scoring and we weren't playing. We kind of fell apart, but we ended up winning those games. Like those are, like I said, in-division games that were huge for us coming home again. And then I don't, like what I remember is Snowy never talked about it the entire time, which I think was good. Obviously it's kind of background noise and it's a bit of a distraction that's built. And he kind of just kept us, laser focused at all times. It was, you never really got off, because if someone got off and you let someone go, then the whole team kind of was affected by it. It was something he never brought up once, I can honestly say, until after the game, when he finally kind of just said, it's good. Like, I want to thank you guys for like playing well, the streak to play that many games at home. And, it's something to be proud of. Obviously it's a stepping stone for us, but no, he never said anything the entire time from what I can remember until after that game.
And that game was on the 14th of February. Happy Valentine's Day, a win over the Maine Mariners. Trey, that kicked off the first of a 4-game homestand, all against Maine. I mean, that's a little strange. How is that maybe different from seeing a team maybe 2 here, 2 there, compared to seeing them 4 in a row in the regular season? That's weird.
Yeah, that's definitely more like a playoff atmosphere, I think. And, I think that was a good a good step into, we didn't end up playing playoffs, obviously, but that was our first real good look at, what it would be like. You see the same team 4 times in a row, and, they're going to put certain guys on certain guys and, get into that playoff type atmosphere. But yeah, I know we didn't do very well, did we, those 4 games?
Well, the first game was great, and you guys got the record. That's the best part. So we'll get to the latter 3 games of that series in a minute. But I mean,
okay.
Can you guys? Yeah, that kind of should tell you how well we did. What was the feeling and sensation in the locker room after you guys ended up locking down the streak? It's up on the jumbotron, 19 straight home wins. Todd, was that cause for celebration? Was it just a normal game? How do you then kind of try and refocus after what had to have been an emotional high, and then play 3 straight games against the team again? What was the emotion in the room after the game, and was it celebratory?
I mean, we were obviously proud about the moment. It's hard to do. I think it's hard to just win, any kind of amount of games in a row at the pro level. Obviously, there's a lot of good hockey players, a lot of good teams, a lot of good rivalries. So it makes it hard to win games, and to win 19 straight at home is something special. Obviously, like I said, we're excited. We're proud in the room. But again, I think we played back-to-back nights before we played the other 2, and it was kind of a short-lived thing. Enjoy it tonight, as we'd always kind of say and sit on it. But when you come to the rink tomorrow, it's a whole new game. Obviously, the lineups change. Like Trazer said, different guys are being put on different players, and it was like a playoff type series. It's 4 games. You need 4 games to win a series, so you kind of look at it that way. And like I said, we obviously enjoyed it. We were proud of it. But something our team never really did was get kind of too high with things. Obviously, we get excited about things and whatnot, but it was, like I said, it was always short-lived. It was always like that night, you enjoy it. If you had a successful night individually or a team, something happens with a teammate or team or anything like that, it just, you're excited for that night, and then you kind of move forward. And that was kind of our goal comes the next night. I think it was Saturday, and obviously it was a new day, and we did our interviews about the whole streak from the night before, and obviously move forward.
And Skirvs, I'm not trying to just pick out every goal you scored here all year, but you scored maybe your nicest one of the year in that game. That was a 5-1 win, goal and an assist in the biggest game all year. No big deal. Do you remember the goal?
Yeah, because I don't have that many, but
that's not what I meant. That's not, that.
I know. No, it was I got put on a shift with Fergie and Woodsy. It was kind of a broken line shift, I think, after a couple penalties or whatnot. Second period, they just kind of threw us out there, just kind of get something going at the time. And Woodsy won the battle along the wall and with Fergie, and then Fergie got it back to Woodsy. It was kind of a broken play, and Woodsy kind of just caught me in behind the defenseman, and it was basically a 2-on-1. And usually I'm the kind of guy that just wants to pass it off, especially to someone like Fergie, because the guy can score. But at this point, there really was no lane. I was like, you know what, I got to shoot, because I'll get in trouble if I don't shoot. So I kind of brought it from my forehand and kind of to my backhand, and I was able to obviously put it short side. But it was just like, again, I was just happy to help the team. At that point, I just wanted to win that game. Obviously, the streak's on the line. We're playing an in-division team. It was just like great. Like I was able to get that one extra goal, maybe that, help our top 3, 2 lines that were, scoring every night. So anytime you can help the team get one there, that was all I was thinking at that point. So we had a good cheer about that one, that's for sure.
And Trey, I don't know if you've ever listened back to any of my calls, but every time Skirvs is in on a big play or scores a goal, I just find another level. I'm just curious, with someone like yourself, you're on the bench. and Skirvs goes out and scores a big goal or something like that. What's your reaction given obviously the relationship you guys have? You must go just as crazy as I do.
Yeah, I think the first thing I do is look for Brazzy and Woodsy on the bench, and we just all, hug each other. And a couple times I think I've almost thrown my stick into the crowd, just getting so excited for Skirvs. I mean, not that he doesn't, get his points, but it's just like, I mean, for how hard he works, and he I've been there too, but you're in the nest, and when he gets in the games and he does well, and for all how hard he works in the game, blocking shots, doing the things that people don't really want to do, and to see him score, it's nice. And when it's dad, it's even sweeter.
I just blow the roof off every time. I love it. Especially if we're on the road, I love it even more. I mean, we do, I guess, have to talk about the last 3 games of that main series, dropping 3 in a row at home. I think that's the first time the Growlers had ever done that. I don't mean to be rude in asking it quite like this, but Skirvs, what happened the last 3 games? Do you have any recollection?
Yeah, it was just kind of, we completely got away from our game. Like, there was no other reason. We were just playing bad hockey. I don't know, like, personally, for me, it wasn't like, oh, we got the streak, it's over with. I don't think that was on anyone's mind. I just think we kind of got sloppy. Maybe Maine's like, all right, they did get the streak against us. Okay, they ain't getting any more games against us. Obviously, it's that time of year where they're fighting for points too, because they're on the bubbles. So, I mean, yeah, they might have lost the streak game, but for them, it was like, whatever, we got to get these next game, 2, 3, which they ended up getting the next 3 games. But as I think you even said at some interview, or you kind of talk about the locker room, like, sometimes it's good to get kicked in the face like that time of year. It's better that it happens now and not in a playoff series where you're all of a sudden down 3-1 in a series. Obviously, that's what we're thinking at that time. It was just another good learning lesson. I always look at different outcomes, different situations for at least our young team. There's always like a learning lesson. You could always learn from something. And that was just one of those things. We hit a high, we got a streak, set a record. Okay, now we got kicked back down. Okay, how do we respond, kind of thing? And that was just, obviously, you never want to lose, but sometimes you look at it like, hey, we needed that. Let's get back on the horse and get rolling again. So obviously, unfortunate, wasn't the way we want to play, and a good lesson for us moving forward, obviously.
And that was a few months ago now. I'm curious, now that the dust has settled, Trey, we'll start with you. How does a record like this sit on you? Obviously, it's a cool thing, but now that you've had time to kind of pick apart the season and the pros and the cons, surely this is going to be a big part of what you remember about this season. Kind of, how does it sit with you, Trey, a few months removed?
Honestly, it's still kind of hard to wrap my head around, 19 wins at home in a row, not even just 19 home wins. It's crazy. And I tell people about it here, like, yeah, my team, we won 19 wins in a row this season at home. And they're like, wait, what? Like, and it's just crazy how long of a span that time frame is, starting back when it did. And, it's really special, and I'll definitely never forget it, especially in my first year, do something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's almost still hard to wrap my head around it, I think.
And Todd, for you, I'm curious how much the fans, how much did they really play into the streak? Because especially after the Kelly Cup last season, it really felt like the fan support rolled right through this streak.
Yeah, especially in the second half there when things were gearing up for the playoffs. I think, like, obviously our front office did a good job of getting that games hyped up, getting the word out. And obviously I think we did a streaking game where there was like socks and underwear, which obviously when you can promote the streak while giving back to the community that you play in, I think that's huge. It's easy for the people of obviously St. John's to rally behind something like that. It's just the way we can give back at the same time. So I think tying those two together, having the fans at the game is always special. I mean, they're a big part of it too. I just I'll never forget the first season as going into playoffs, going with Toledo, obviously hearing their fans and then having our fans respond to it and then carrying it over into this season. The fans have a huge, huge impact on how some of the games go. Some of the reffing sometimes too. Obviously when things happen quick, the fans get on them and it really forces people. It forces the issue on players, coaches, it can frustrate people. So when you have a good team and a good home fan base, I mean, it makes it hard for teams, like I said, to come all the way out to St. John's and travel out there and play games. I mean, our fans are a big part of it. They're like our seventh man in the stands. And I mean, without them, obviously it's not as fun or exciting to play.
And I think one of my favorite moments all throughout the streak was Buddy the Puffin. I don't know if you guys were super aware of what he was doing behind the scenes, but after every home win, he would walk out to center ice. And I'm not even sure how many fans really knew what was happening. He would go to center ice and do a push-up for every one of the wins. And by the end of it, Buddy the Puffin was jacked up like a longshoreman. Trey, were you aware what Buddy the Puffin was doing behind the scenes?
No, I mean, I didn't know he was doing all that, but I know I see him, from the bench and TV timeouts. He's always buzzing around, getting the crowd pumped up. He's running around by our locker room, and after the games, he's always in there for some fist bumps. So, yeah, I know he's definitely a big part of it. And I think, what Skirv said with the fans, like some nights you come to the rink and, you maybe don't have your legs or you're not mentally in it. And then, the anthem plays and, the crowd starts cheering and you're just, okay, like I'm in the game now. And I think the crowd, I've definitely been there a couple of times, are mentally tired. And just as much as the team coming in doesn't really want to, deal with loud, noisy fans that are chanting, it also helps us get motivated and get pumped up for games.
Skirvs, I know you're tight with Buddy the Puffin. What did you make of his run through the streak?
Honestly, going to the push-ups, I think I remember him doing that last year in the playoffs. I remember him throwing the fish on the ice and dropping down and doing a couple push-ups. I think I've seen it after the last couple of replays I've been watching. But no, it's great. I think the mascot could be a huge help. I think Buddy's really animated compared to a lot of other mascots that we go to other barns, especially in our league. And if he can get the fans going, I mean, there's games where I don't play and he's doing halftime shows, whether he's drumming or doing some kind of dance or something. Like he's always got the fans engaged. And I think that's huge because, the intermissions, fans go get food, or if you keep them kind of engaged, keep them within. And I think, Buddy does a great job. I mean, we're kind of all like at mile one there. I think a lot of the staff, is really close to each other, the rink staff. It's nice to like personally know the people there that work the games and stuff like that. They're a huge help. And I think when you create that relationship with the fans, it one brings them in and two makes it like a fun environment for everyone, not just us players, but for them too.
So little would we know that following that main series, the record under our arm, little did we know that there would only be 9 games left in what would be our regular season. I kind of want to hone in on that day in Brampton. We had played the day before. We're getting ready to pack up the bus for Kalamazoo. The NBA had obviously ended their season overnight. Trey, kind of what do you remember about that day in Brampton waiting? Are we going to Kalamazoo? Are we going home? I'm hearing the rumor. Take me through that day for you. Like, that's a weird day.
Yeah, the night before, I think we were all out for a family dinner. And we got the news that the NBA got canceled or postponed. So we were all kind of in shock. We figured, it's not going to be good for us, but we didn't know how quick things would end up, changing. And so the next day we woke up and we're just told kind of like meet in the lobby. And then we kind of hung around and then we had to like check out of rooms, check back into rooms and bring our bags down and getting ready for the 3:00 bus or 11 o'clock, whichever one it was. And, ended up just waiting around all day. Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, it was just kind of like, no one really knew how big of a deal it was yet. We just thought but if the NBA shut down, it wasn't probably good for us. But it was just a lot of sitting, waiting, and not really knowing what's going on, and a little bit of frustration.
Same question. Take us through your day. I'm sure you guys are hanging out. It sticks out to me like.
Yeah, I just, like Trader said, we had a dinner the night before. Had a big dessert too. We were really treating ourselves because we were just excited with the game against Brampton, and we knew we had a little road trip coming up. So, yeah, I just remember waking up. I came down to the lobby a little bit early, and everyone's just kind of standing there and what's going on. And it's probably you that said something like, "Oh, we're not leaving," and I'm like, "Oh, here we go," like whatever. Not really even thinking about anything more than we're not leaving right now. Then to hearing that the bus has changed, to hearing that we're trying to get flights home tonight, and we're not even going to bother going. So at this point, I didn't really understand what was going on. It was just kind of coming in waves, and I thought we were going to go back, and I was like, okay, well, maybe we'll still play. Like, it wasn't really hitting me that our season was about to end. It didn't feel real, and I didn't really want to believe it at the time, because I just thought, okay, maybe we'll pause like everyone else, and maybe it's just a week and back at it. But sure enough, that was, another long travel day. We fly home, get home at some crazy time in the middle of the night. And then sure enough, shortly after, we find out that the season was canceled.
It's still such a strange day in my memory, and it's going to remain that way, I'm sure, for a long time. Anything that jumps out at you guys through the last 9 games of the season? I don't want to talk about almost literally every single game and not finish off. That included the Florida trip on March 6th against Adirondack. You both had a assist. Was that a momentous day for the fam? I'm grasping at straws and just trying to give the last 9 games its due here.
Yeah, that was fun. I think Trey was just trying to get me a goal and he shot it off me. I still don't even know if it went off me, but he said, pointed at me, he said, "Dad, you scored." Right, let's go. But yeah, no, it's always fun when we get to when we're on the ice together and celebrating, because we have a pretty good laugh in the huddle. So that was definitely one of those times where we had a really good chuckle about it. We were talking about it in the locker room afterwards too. But yeah, I mean, going back to those games, or going back to the last whatever amount of games you said we had there, I thought we were starting to play really good hockey. Had a few learning lessons down in Florida where I still thought we played well for the most part, just maybe didn't get the outcomes. But that's going to happen. You're going to run into hot goaltending or, penalties against, penalties for, whatever the case may be. But we were getting guys back from the Marlies. Guys were getting healthy. We were kind of starting to really load up and start gearing towards playoffs. So I think we're 5-0 going into before the season canceled. So it was kind of obviously upsetting, frustrated. Obviously, the decision that was made makes sense. Obviously, we all supported it, but it was just obviously hard to see a season, starting to finally come together and flourish, coming down the stretch. And obviously for the returners looking to do it again, and for the newcomers, at this point, realizing what we can do and what we can, hopefully do in the playoffs. And then obviously to having it come to a halt like that was hard on all of us. I remember kind of being with the guys. I was probably one of the most emotional ones out of them all that night when we got told the news, being with everyone. But yeah, it was definitely a special group, a group I still won't forget. Obviously the season didn't finish, but another one of those groups that's high up there with the Kelly Cup championship teams. I'd probably say it's 1 and 2 for me, but yeah, it was definitely a good season. Obviously unfortunate how it had to end.
And Trey, for you, one of those last road trips, you ended up playing in your home state. I'm not sure you ever thought you'd have the chance of playing pro hockey in the state of Florida in front of your friends and family. Kind of what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it was awesome. I grew up playing at the Florida Everblades rink, so it was fun to go back there. I never really got to play on the main sheet.
Someone's got to get it.
$25, right?
Yeah, that's a fine for sure.
Money on the board.
Yeah, it was fun to go back there, and my parents just had to go down the road to come watch me play, which they haven't really been able to do ever since I moved away. But yeah, it was fun. I only got to play in I think one of the games because I got hurt for the other 2. But it was still nice to go down to Florida, enjoy the heat, and I think the Sunday to watch Brazzy score 4, 5, 6, 7, however many he scored. I couldn't keep count. It was just he scored and scored. But yeah, it was fun. That Florida trip was definitely fun. And then the last game we played against Brampton, when we came back in the third period, I think, again, we've been talking about it this whole time, but just how everyone in the room just wanted to win and the character. And that was a really fun game too, just to be a part of the chaos that kind of happened in that game.
I have to ask you this. Spurs, I'll ask you to start. Are you resentful toward the way the season ended? Not the fact that it ended, but knowing that may have had a pretty good shot at repeating as champions. Are you frustrated? Are you mad? Have you let it go? Where do you stand?
Yeah, I wouldn't say obviously you're disappointed and upset. But like I said, there's a lot more bigger things in hockey. Obviously the world's, in a tough position right now, and you're kind of just hoping for the well-being of everyone until hopefully there's a vaccine found or what the case may be. But going back on the season, obviously I think for me it'll always kind of just be a bit of a sour taste, obviously, just because I'm very competitive. I like to win. I knew the group we had, I knew the people we had especially, and it's just kind of one of those years that it'll have to be a wash. But hopefully it brings not just me, but other players, the newcomers, everyone can kind of learn from this, and hopefully it gears them up and gets them ready for when the time is to start going again. So at this point, you just kind of hope everyone stays safe, healthy, and in the meantime, just wait it out, be patient, and just be ready for when the time comes, because the growl will be going.
Hey, bye. Trey, I'll ask you the same question. At what point are you over it? I'm sure this is not the way you saw your rookie season ending.
No, I mean, I don't know if I'm over it yet, but I guess I come to terms with it. But I mean, as a hockey player and as an athlete, like you want to win, and that's why you play the regular season. So to play the whole regular season and have the record we did, and all the effort we put into it, and just to not be able to finish something special that we started, it's frustrating, and it still is frustrating. And especially knowing that we had a team that, maybe just as good as the team that won the year before, and they had won the whole thing. I mean, it's easy to say that, but I mean, we definitely had a good team, and our record shows that. But it would have at least been fun to, play in the playoffs and see what we were made of when, crunch time's coming.
Boys, that was our season. Any other memories that we didn't quite get to? Any stories there are to share before we send you guys on your way? Todd, anything? I see a smirk growing across your face. Anything to share?
No, every time I look at Trey, it makes me laugh. But I don't know. I can't really think. Like it was like I said, there's like so many good memories. Like, we had really good people again this year, and I think that's important to winning games, having a championship team, and like Trace. To go off Trey, there's like we had an opportunity to at least put ourselves in a position to win again this year. Doesn't guarantee us that, but obviously it's something you always think about. But there's so many different memories, whether it was on the bus, out with the guys, or whatever the case may be, in the locker room, in the weight room, in the training room. No matter what it was, even we forgot to mention we got to have a beach day in Florida too.
Yeah,
which I remember telling you, Bals, looking at the schedule, saying how important that was for us to get a full day, just to middle of winter, basically, kind of a day off, a break, just to go out, have our fun, be on the beach, get sun, like do something different, completely forget about hockey for the day, and then come back to work the next day. Like there were so many different points throughout the season where we had the opportunities to use different situations to just keep growing. And like I said, it'd always be frustrating. Like Trey said, that we don't know what the outcome may be, but we both obviously understand it. But I think, like I said, for everyone, every player on this team, it'll be something that we will remember, and it'll always sit in our minds and, frustrate us. I mean, he said we're competitive, we're athletes, and that's just kind of how we are.
Any initial thoughts to the NHL's plan to return to action, a 24-team playoff? Going to be exciting to see hockey. Trey, what's your take? Are you excited to fire up the telly in the middle of July and catch some puck?
Yeah, it'll be different, in the time that it's happening, you're not used to watching hockey then, but I mean, as long as they do it safe and they take the right precautions, I'm all for it. And, I'm ready to see hockey again. And I'm glad they're letting them play it out, because if I had the choice, I'd wish that we got to play our season out. Yeah. But obviously we don't have the multi-million-dollar TV contracts that they get. But I'm happy for it, and I'm all for it. And I'm excited to turn TV on and, be able to watch it again.
Skirvs, are the 4 teams in each conference that kind of get that bye into the second round, are they at an advantage or a disadvantage?
I think you can look – it all depends how the teams kind of prepare. I mean, you can look at it as, hey, we got a little more rest, or you can look at it as we don't have those extra competitive games. I mean, I think, like Trey said, it's just exciting to be back on. It's a unique situation. I think you just kind of got to grab the bull by the horns and go at it, and just have fun with it, and just, it's a step into a new normal. Obviously it's not going to be the same, and it's not going to stay like this forever, but like Trey said, if we got the call and said, hey, like we're going to find a way to make the playoffs happen, I think we're all would be interested in doing something like that. I think it's just, you kind of got to fight through kind of being uncomfortable right now. Everyone would be uncomfortable doing it, but just kind of accept it and be open to the change for the season. That's just how it's going to be. So, I mean, obviously I'm excited. I'm a little worried. I don't know how that kind of puts us maybe moving into next year, whether that's our season starting a little bit later, if it's going to start at all, or how that's going to go. So, but like I said, having sports is a step in the right direction. Like you brought up earlier, I watch the golf. I even watch the UFC right now. I'm watching NASCAR. It's just live sports. It's something, right? Us athletes always crave that competitiveness. So, just excited to see how hopefully this works. Hopefully it kind of just sets, a new standard that kind of helps, and everyone else, other sports, us, everyone can kind of piggyback off it as we look to obviously change our ways in a way that is safe and healthy for everyone.
With that, I think this episode of Growler Hour has come to an end. Thank you very much to our very special guests this evening, Todd Skirving and Trey Bradley. Boys, maybe we'll have to do this again, bring the whole fam aboard.
Thanks, fellas. Yeah, of course. Get the whole fam on.
We should have. They were all in the chat here tonight. That could have happened real easy. Beef jumped in here as well. Didn't get a chance to shout him out, but he was in here. Folks, thank you to all of you at home for watching here tonight. Don't forget to follow us here on Twitch. Don't forget to tell your friends that we are on Rogers on Saturday mornings. Nope, Saturday nights at 9 p.m., Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Next week, here on Twitch, we're still recording on Thursday nights. We're going to have Evan Newgold of your Newfoundland Growlers and a very special guest from Petty Harbor, Newfoundland and Labrador, Alan Doyle, will be here. Many thanks to Kenny O'Leary and John Long back at home for doing all the real work and making this show happen. I'm Chris Ballard. Thank you again for joining us. This is Growler Hour. We'll see you next week.